I think there's really only one thing separating you from the life you genuinely want to live, and it's probably not what you think. It's not talent, luck, or even finding motivation. It's this simple secret. You have to act first, and the feelings will follow. Stop waiting. Start doing. I think there's really only one thing separating you from the life you genuinely want to live, and it's probably not what you think. I know exactly how it feels to have these huge, amazing goals and dreams, the ones that keep you up at 3 a.m., but then have absolutely no clue how to actually reach them. It feels like the years just keep passing, and somehow, despite all your intentions, you make frustratingly little progress. That gap between where you are and where you want to be can feel overwhelming, like standing at the bottom of a mountain you forgot how to climb. Trust me when I tell you, I'm not here to waste your time. I've been in that exact spot. I've watched countless videos just like this one. They'd get me totally inspired. Maybe for an hour, maybe for a day. And then, like clockwork, that motivation would simply evaporate. Gone. I was left staring at a blank page or an untouched project, right back where I started. So, is there an actual solution to this? Or are we always going to feel overwhelmed by the sheer size of our goals and the distance to our dreams? You know, the video you're watching right now almost didn't get recorded at all. The thought hit me. This idea has already been made 1,000 times. There's no need for me to waste my time trying to make my own version. It was a classic case of my own resistance kicking in. But then I stopped myself. I thought, no, this is something I really want to say. This simple message, this little shift in perspective, has actually had a profound impact on my own life. So why would I not share this if I truly believed it could help someone, or even change their life? For the longest time, I was trying really hard to figure out what it was, exactly, that prevented me from making progress on anything, especially my most important goals and dreams. Why could I spend hours brainstorming, planning, and organizing, only to fail the moment it came to execution? And I think I finally figured it out. The common culprit always seemed to be a lack of motivation. I thought, well, I'd work out, but I'm not motivated today. Or, I'd start that business idea, but I don't feel inspired. That lack of motivation, I realized, usually just comes from the simple act of not feeling motivated. It's a circular trap. And that right there is the major flaw in how most of us approach our ambitions. I was letting my feelings, my moods, my fleeting energy levels, my general desire to be motivated, dictate what I was able to accomplish. I was waiting for this magical surge of inspiration to sweep me up and carry me to the finish line. That's the motivation myth. We've been taught, implicitly or explicitly, that motivation must come before the work. That you have to be pumped, energized, and ready to conquer the world before you can sit down and do the hard thing. But here's the reality. Motivation isn't a precondition for action. It's a consequence of it. If I wait to feel inspired to take action, I usually don't act at all. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and suddenly the goal I was so excited about is just a dusty, neglected file on my desktop. You can't control when you're going to feel inspired. That's a passive, unpredictable state. It's like waiting for the weather to be perfect before you decide to leave the house. You'll spend a lot of time waiting. What you can control is when you're going to actually start doing something. You can control the choice to take action. When it comes to my goals, if I zoom out too far and think about the big, intimidating picture, the finish line years away, I don't accomplish anything at all. The sheer magnitude paralyzes me. It's too much. The gap between the dream and the current reality is a chasm that feels impossible to cross. But when I change my focus, when I decide to ignore the 10-year plan for a minute and instead focus on one specific, small, and simple task, I immediately start being productive. That tiny shift is the key. Taking action first. Not waiting for the perfect moment. Not waiting for motivation to magically show up. Just starting. Because momentum doesn't come from waiting. It comes from doing. So, if we've established that waiting for motivation is a trap, the motivation myth, then what's the actual solution? How do we break free from that cycle of waiting, feeling overwhelmed, and ultimately procrastinating? The answer is deceptively simple yet utterly transformative. It's what I call the secret flip. For years, I operated under the assumption that the formula was feeling $right tarot, $action, $right tarot, result. I thought, I must feel good, feel inspired, or feel motivated, and then I'll take action, and then I'll get the result. But as we already know, inspiration is fickle. It comes and goes like a summer shower. Relying on it is a recipe for standing still. The secret flip changes the entire equation. It recognizes that our feelings, particularly the feelings of accomplishment, energy, and yes, motivation, are often lagging indicators. They don't spark the engine, they're the exhaust. Think about it in terms of a creative idea. Let's say you have this amazing story idea or a concept for a new piece of content. You wait all day to feel like writing. You sit there, maybe you scroll through social media, perhaps you tidy your desk. Anything but starting. You're waiting for that lightning bolt of writer's inspiration. It doesn't strike. By the end of the day, you feel guilty, uninspired, and tired. Your lack of action has actively generated the negative feelings you were hoping to avoid. Now, imagine the opposite scenario. You wake up, you feel sluggish, definitely not motivated, but you commit to the secret flip. You decide, I don't need to feel like writing. I just need to open the document and write 3 sentences. You take that action. You sit down. You write 3 mediocre sentences. What happens next is where the magic lives. Your brain kicks into gear. The creative part of your mind realizes, oh, we're doing this now. The resistance starts to lower. Those initial 3 sentences suddenly become 5, then a paragraph, then a page. You're no longer thinking about how to start. You're immersed in doing. After 20 minutes, you stand up. You might only have 1 page done, but you have a sense of satisfaction. You've broken the seal. You have proof that you can execute. That feeling of slight accomplishment. That is motivation. That is the positive feeling that action generates. I've learned that if I take action on a creative idea, my positive feelings will normally follow. I am creating the energy required to continue the task. The biggest mistake is assuming you need the energy before you start. You have to generate the energy through the initial push. You can't control when you're going to feel inspired, but you have absolute 100% control over the moment you actually choose to start doing something and take that initial action. This is where your true power lies. It's the moment you step out of the passive state of waiting and into the active state of creating. This principle works because our feelings are often reflections of our recent actions. When you consistently put off a task, your internal narrative becomes, I am a procrastinator, or I'm not good at starting things, which in turn makes you feel unmotivated and anxious. When you force yourself to take that first tiny step, even when it's uncomfortable, your internal narrative shifts to, I am someone who takes action, or I am making progress. This positive internal feedback loop fuels your desire to continue. It's a self-sustaining source of energy, an engine powered by small wins. The secret flip isn't about being a robot, it's about being a strategist. It's realizing that the battle isn't with the size of the goal. The battle is with inertia. And the only thing that overcomes inertia is movement. You don't wait for your feelings to grant you permission to move. You use movement to generate the feelings that sustain you. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by a goal, whether it's learning a new skill, starting a business, or finishing a project, don't ask yourself, do I feel like doing this? Instead, ask a different question. What is the very next, smallest action I can take right now? Once you decide to start with action, the inspiration will come. The energy will follow. It always does. You've just successfully flipped the script. If the secret flip resonates with you, you're probably ready to stop just dreaming and start building real daily momentum. But taking that first step can still feel daunting. That's why I created the guide, 30 Days to a Better You. This isn't just theory. It's a detailed, step-by-step roadmap designed to help you break down your biggest goals into 30 days of small, manageable actions. It shows you exactly where to zoom in to build unstoppable momentum. Stop wrestling with motivation and start making real progress today. Click the link below and grab your copy of 30 Days to a Better You. If the secret flip teaches us that action comes first and feelings follow, how do we apply that to those huge, intimidating goals that seem to sprawl out endlessly? The ones that make you want to curl up and hide under the covers instead of facing them? The answer lies in mastering the art of zooming in. When we approach a massive goal, let's say writing a novel, launching a complicated product, or transforming our fitness, we naturally zoom out. We look at the finish line, a 300-page manuscript, a fully operational business, or a completely different body. When you look at that big picture, the distance is terrifying. The sheer volume of steps required is enough to trigger paralysis. Your brain sees the enormity and registers one word: impossible. This is exactly why you sit down to start, stare at the blank page, and then end up wasting hours scrolling through feeds or cleaning out your inbox. You're not procrastinating because you're lazy. You're procrastinating because the task in its zoomed-out form is simply too psychologically threatening. It's a defense mechanism against feeling inadequate or overwhelmed. I learned the hard way that when I focus too much on the big picture, I don't accomplish anything at all. My energy is spent worrying about chapter 15 when I haven't even written the introduction. I'm obsessing over the marketing campaign when the product itself is still a sketch on a napkin. The moment you choose to zoom in, everything changes. Instead of tackling the mountain, you focus on picking up a single small rock. Instead of contemplating the novel, you commit to writing one sentence. Instead of planning the entire launch, you focus on writing one email subject line. When I focus on one thing and accomplish one small thing, I'm able to be productive. That's the key. This isn't about tricking yourself. It's about giving your brain a win. A single small step is not psychologically threatening. It takes almost no energy. It feels safe and achievable. This is the low-friction entry point that bypasses all the resistance and procrastination. The beauty of the small step is that it immediately provides that hit of positive feeling. You complete the small task, and your brain releases a tiny burst of dopamine, a reward signal, that says, "Hey, good job. Do that again." That sense of accomplishment, that immediate verifiable proof of progress, is your newly generated motivation. Once you've taken that one small step, momentum begins to build. One small step naturally leads to another. The tiny effort required to start the second step is significantly less than the effort required for the first, because you've already broken inertia. This method allows you to take action first, without waiting for the perfect, energized moment. It tells your conscious mind, we're not trying to be perfect or strategic or completely planned out right now. We just have to begin. So, stop overthinking. Stop waiting to feel ready. Instead, I want you to focus right now on identifying the single most insignificant, non-intimidating, positive action you could take today toward that one big goal. It doesn't have to be perfectly planned or strategic. It just has to begin. Because once you successfully take that one small step, the inspiration will come and the energy will follow. It always does. You've successfully tricked your brain out of paralyzing itself. We've established the secret flip, action before feeling. And we've learned the tactical trick of zooming in to find the single small step. But why does this work so reliably? It comes down to understanding the invisible force that truly drives long-term success: momentum. Think about inertia. In physics, inertia is the resistance of any physical object to any change in its state of motion. A heavy boulder at rest takes a tremendous initial force to get rolling, but once it starts moving, it takes less effort to keep it going. Our goals operate on the exact same principle. When we are stuck in a cycle of procrastination, we are that boulder at rest. The sheer mental weight of having to change our state from doing nothing to doing something is monumental. Our feelings of low motivation, anxiety, and being overwhelmed are all just manifestations of that internal resistance, that inertia, keeping us perfectly still. The small, zoomed-in step is the equivalent of that first, necessary, forceful nudge on the boulder. It's not about rolling the boulder all the way down the hill. It's just about getting it to twitch. How many times have you sat around waiting to feel inspired? Think about it honestly. How many hours have you wasted scrolling, watching random videos, or organizing your sock drawer, all while convincing yourself that now just isn't the right time to start the important thing? That cycle of passive waiting is the fuel that keeps you stuck. That's the cycle that kept me stuck for years. The defining characteristic of successful people isn't that they are permanently motivated or that they never feel lazy. It's that they understand this principle. Momentum doesn't come from waiting. It comes from doing. The moment you begin. Even, and perhaps especially when you absolutely do not feel like it. Something shifts in your brain. You don't need a massive, life-altering commitment. You just need to open the door. I call it just open the door, because the smallest action is often just preparing the environment, or starting the process, without any pressure to perform. You don't need to write the novel, you just need to open the laptop and open the file. Door opened. You don't need to run a marathon. You just need to put on your running shoes. Door opened. You don't need to practice the guitar for 2 hours. You just need to pick it up and play one chord. Door opened. When you open the door, your brain recognizes a change in state. It registers that the period of passive resistance is over, and the period of action has begun. Your brain kicks into gear. Suddenly, the energy that was required to fight the resistance is now available to actually do the work. The resistance drops, and your internal resources follow the action. And here's the most beautiful part of momentum: it compounds. One small, successful step leads to a natural desire to take the next one, and that one to the next. It's like a tiny snowball rolling downhill, picking up mass and speed with every revolution. You're not relying on that external, fleeting motivation anymore. You're being driven by the powerful self-created force of progress. This is the process of generating your own inspiration. You don't have to be perfectly planned out and strategically optimized. You just have to begin. Once the action starts, the inspiration will arrive, the focus will sharpen, and the energy will follow. It always does. The sad truth is, most people watching this right now will not take that first step. They'll nod along, feel momentarily inspired, and then they'll wait for that feeling to return tomorrow, trapping themselves in the cycle of inertia. Don't be one of those people. Today, you have the knowledge and the power to break the cycle. You just have to open the door. We've traveled through the entire journey. We exposed the myth of waiting for motivation, flipped the script to realize that action generates feeling, and learned to disarm overwhelm by zooming in on one single small step to ignite momentum. Now let's tie it all together and answer the core question we started with. What is the one thing that truly separates you from the life you know you want to live? The answer, distilled down to its absolute essence, is brutally simple. It's taking action. The difference between those who actually create, launch, build, and make things happen versus those who only perpetually dream about creating is not talent, intelligence, or luck. It's the willingness to consistently take that first step. It is the ability to show up and initiate movement, even when the feelings, the comfort, the confidence, the inspiration, are nowhere to be found. Think about the sheer volume of amazing, world-changing ideas that die every day in the planning stage. They die not because they were bad ideas, but because their creators were stuck in the waiting room of motivation. They were trying to strategize their way out of a problem that only required movement. When you look at someone who seems to be effortlessly crushing their goals, it's easy to assume they have a secret well of endless energy or motivation that you don't. But their secret is this simple truth. They execute while others deliberate. They prioritize the do over the feel. They understand that the only difference between an idea and a reality is the bridge of action. This is the central theme of a successful life: commitment to the start. The first step is always the hardest because it requires you to fight inertia. It requires you to step out of your comfort zone, the cozy, familiar spot of planning, and into the discomfort of execution. But once you commit to the start, the subsequent steps become easier, fueled by the momentum you generated. Here's the truth, and I need you to hear this clearly. It doesn't have to be perfect. The small step doesn't need to be strategic. It doesn't need to be brilliant. It just needs to be started. The idea that you have to perfectly plan out every chapter of your book before you write the first sentence is what keeps the book from ever existing. The idea that you have to wait until you have the perfect workout routine and diet before you take care of your body is what ensures you never take care of your body. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Beginning is the friend of momentum. I can't tell you exactly what that small step is for you. I don't know your dreams, your goals, or your anxieties. But I think if you thought about it for 30 seconds, you could figure out one small thing to do today that would move you in a positive direction. It could be truly minute. It could be changing your computer desktop background to your goal. It could be spending 5 minutes sketching out a title for your project. It could be sending a single email you've been putting off. The size is irrelevant. The completion is everything. That small act, that single moment of choosing action over waiting, is the key that can change your life. Because once you successfully take that step, you have the proof. You have the momentum. And once you begin, the inspiration will come, the energy will follow, and the path forward will become clearer. It always does. If there's one thing that I can encourage you with, as someone who doesn't know you, will probably never know you, but who genuinely wants the best for you, it is this. Today, take one small, uncomfortable step in actually doing something, and not just dreaming about it. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for motivation. Just start. That's the one thing. That's the difference.